It's about being authentic, but if you listen to what I actually say, it's not controversial.
What kind of reaction were you getting?
I mean, talk about a self-esteem boost, right? In my own battles with self-esteem. So
Self-esteem issues? What are you talking about?
Come on!
So when...
Celebrities, CEOs, and politicians constantly use certain words over and over again. Empowerment, diversity, inclusion. Words like these sound good to a lot of people. However, words mean nothing without content. Without content, they're merely used for self-promotion and virtue signaling. It's no coincidence that celebrities, CEOs, and politicians use the same phrases, because all three groups have one goal: to get as many people as possible to buy their brand, message, or product. With Meghan as the case example, I'll focus on how words can be deceiving, how words that sound good and make us feel good oftentimes have a much different underlying meaning, or are flat out wrong. For a specific video about speech behaviors to watch out for in your own conversations, check this one. Links in the description. Okay, let the authenticity begin.
So thank you for gracing us with your presence.
oh my goodness, I'm so thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about the Dove Self-Esteem Project. You were here speaking to a group of people last night, especially young people. What is it that you have to say that they should really listen to?
You know, when Dove reached out to me, it was so, as I was saying to you, it's just so easy for me to jump on board with this, because their whole campaign right now for self-esteem is inspiring confidence in young women. And I think it's timely right now, the conversation of feminism and women feeling empowered, but to plant those seeds starting really young. And so
there's an important distinction between naming and defining. Naming is when a speaker makes claims without giving grounds, such as, the company's hostile environment needs to change. Here, everybody would agree that you should strive to change a hostile work environment. Definitions, on the other hand, contain grounds, such as, the company's environment is hostile because I don't feel like I can be me and it needs to change. Now, not everybody would agree that a change is needed, because what does the speaker mean by extremely subjective words like feel and being me? Unlike naming, definitions allow for the audience to be the judge of what's being said, to evaluate the strength of the arguments. Meghan engages in naming. She mentions two best-selling words at the moment: confident and empowered, as if they're self-evidently positive and good. She doesn't give any context for the words, and she doesn't reflect on what kind of confidence or empowerment Dove is selling. And critical reflection is important in a time full of companies that, under the guise of philanthropy, know that consumers like to hear things that make them feel good about themselves, no matter if they're true or not. Dove's message isn't simply about confidence and empowerment. If you buy the brand's message, you buy into a certain ideology. But of course, Meghan won't say that, because ideology has negative connotations.
You know, last night we had a workshop talking to not just young women, but also to mentors, teachers, people that are going to be able to like cast this messaging with a wider net, so that young girls can really maximize their potential. And it feels organic and right and good, and I'm just proud to be a part of it.
As a proponent of this ideology, Meghan uses a maritime metaphor, language that belongs to advertising, how advertisers really perceive their target audiences, like fish waiting to be caught.
This messaging with a wider net.
In one of my shorts called How Media Make You Doubt Yourself, I spoke about this. The thing that advertisers, politicians, and celebrities, to be redundant, do is that they monopolize certain words. Let's say empowerment and confidence. In ads, movies, and on social media, they show the visuals they want people to associate with these words. So now people are conditioned to think that certain actions and life decisions are signs of being empowered or confident, while other actions or life decisions are the exact opposite. So, to take one of the most relevant examples I can think of, if the media glorifies having a career because they claim that's empowering, being a stay-at-home mom may end up making many women feel like they're missing out, even though that's not the case at all. But the advertisers want to make people feel like they should act as all the other people in their group. When people feel like they're part of a group, because they happen to share the same innate characteristics, there's a greater chance that they'll buy the product or message, get caught in the net, so to speak. It's no coincidence that someone like Meghan is especially effective in getting people to act as a group rather than as individuals, because she repeats new management terms and cliches to no end. maximize their potential and organic, she says. If you've spent some time on this channel, you'll know that one of the key points in my videos is that Meghan has scripts memorized. Where other people would engage in conversations in the moment, Meghan puts greater emphasis on self-promotion, making sure she uses the right platitudes to be in good standing with the buzzword club she so desperately wants to be part of. This point is best illustrated when she's asked a question which startles her. Let's watch a short, old clip. Notice the word maximize.
It's well known you've championed the empowerment of women and young girls and promoting their self-worth. How do you hope to continue that work with the Royal Foundation?
Yes, I mean, I think that knowing that I've just been here for 3 months, right? And in that amount of time, but with that said, for me, it's very important to, once you hit the ground running, even if you're doing it quietly behind the scenes, which is what I've focused my energy on thus far, is meeting with the right people, meeting with the right organizations behind the scenes quietly, learning as much as I can so that I can maximize the opportunity we have here to really make an impact. I think women don't need to find a voice. They have a voice. They need to feel empowered to use it.
Buzzwords mixed with new management terms. What a lovely combination. And the word organic, which has become a gimmick on this channel, is repeated no matter how misplaced it is.
And I really do have an organic and deep love of travel and of food. And
So for both of us, it was just a really authentic and organic way to get to know each other.
Meghan's constantly doing impression management, constantly advertising, trying to get people to perceive her in the way she wants them to, rather than leaving the interpretation up to people. That's why the words she uses often sound out of place. This is in line with how she prefers to name things rather than define them, because she wants to control the perception.
What is your best advice for other folks with stakeholders, with a desire to weigh in on the important issues of the day?
Yes, I mean, I think it's about being authentic. And
while shaking her head no, she repeats the word authentic from her script. And no, she's not done repeating.
so I just spoke from the heart, and that's probably why it doesn't look polished, and that's why it doesn't feel perfect, but that's also why it's authentic.
And third time's a charm.
Then I think it's very easy to just live with truth and live with authenticity.
It's noteworthy that she evaluates her own speeches and online statements, encouraging people to view her as she'd obviously like to view herself. And she uses the right phrases to try to come across as sincere.
So I just spoke from the heart.
Even though sincerity doesn't come from the words you use, but from the actions you do when the cameras aren't rolling.
like Emily, who's right here, she said that my UN stuff inspired her. I wrote you a letter. I brought it. It's so good to finally meet you. It's so great to meet you.
Meghan's so determined to act as if her own self-perception is the correct one that she dismisses any criticism in the most generalizing way possible.
If you look back at anything that I've said, it's really interesting because it often what ends up being inflammatory, it seems, is people's interpretation of it. But if you listen to what I actually say, it's not controversial. And in some ways, I think you have to have a sense of humor about it, even though there is quite a bit of gravity. And there can be a lot of danger in a misinterpretation of something that was never there to begin with. But that, again, is a byproduct of what is happening right now for all of us.
She says this as a general response to the criticism she's faced, rather than going into each specific criticism, which would be devastating. She implies that each time her communication fails, it's because of other people's interpretation of it, even using the word dangerous about it, just like her now husband.
My words are not dangerous, but the spin of my words are very dangerous.
Meghan and Harry are doing everything they can to avoid accountability. They're happy to complain about other people, but they're strangely quiet when it comes to talking about what they did wrong. I've no idea why. It's so puzzling. I'll let you know when I find out. No.
But if you listen to what I actually say, it's not controversial.
No? Well, let's listen to what she actually says.
You know, unlike what you see in the movies, there's no class on how to cross your legs. No.
Nobody prepares you.
No, I mean, but even down to like the national anthem. That's me late at night Googling what's the I've got to learn this. I need to learn these 30 hymns for church.
I never thought my life would be that awesome. I never thought that I'd have a show that went for this long. That's crazy. I was the girl that auditioned and crawled in through the back seat of my car.
What interpretation is Meghan hoping for? That the audience doesn't recognize humble brag when they hear it? That they don't see the extreme sense of entitlement? I don't know what kind of audience Meghan relies on to believe this. She ends with association.
But that, again, is a byproduct of what is happening right now for all of us.
So that it looks like she's not the only one who experiences this, which is what I call linguistic self-defense.
And when you see the reaction that you get from these people that are coming up to you after you speak to them, how does that make you feel? What kind of reaction were you getting?
I mean, talk about a self-esteem boost, right?
Besides the fact that this is incredibly funny, there's more truth to this than Meghan lets on. Because advertising is always self-serving. It's about selling and selling to as many people as possible. Thus, Meghan is advertising in order to reap the benefits of it, so that she feels empowered, so that she feels confident. Next, let's pay attention to two things: the sense of self-importance and the humble brag.
It's just so nice because, you know, I understand that now people know me from Suits, but that is not what my whole life for the past 34 years has not been that. There's been struggles and challenges and my own battles with self-esteem. So to be able to look at my life full circle and say, not only have I been able to achieve something that I never thought would have been possible, that with this platform now I am able to really inspire people to know that they can do that too is the most humbling. It really is.
Interesting that she uses the word humble when that's exactly what she's trying to guide people to think that she is, even after achieving more than she thought possible. And that's the point with humble brag. Humble brag is an ostensibly modest statement whose actual purpose is to draw attention to something of which one is proud. Here, the modest statement is that she's battled with her self-esteem, which then highlights her incredible career even more. It's worth noting that even though she sells her role in Suits as though it were Gone with the Wind, she has a habit of implying that Suits isn't good enough.
Oh, are you a lawyer then?
No, I'm a paralegal. No, she's trying to be a lawyer, and I hope that she can be that at some point. But for now, no, the lowly paralegal.
Tell us a little bit about your role.
Rachel is the paralegal at the firm, but she's sassy and intelligent, incredibly confident, but she's...
And at that dinner, there were about 20 to 30 of us for the counselors. And there I was the girl from Suits. Suits is not what I never thought my life would be that awesome. Suits is not.
This way, she projects her own personality onto Rachel, the character she plays, as the character doesn't seem to suit, no pun intended, her own high level of ambition. So, has she actually achieved something she would have never thought possible? There's a lot that points to no, but we can't let a detail like that get in the way of the self-promotion.
I mean, it's so interesting because we can look at you and think, what? Self-esteem issues? What are you talking about?
Come on!
Such a real and beautiful moment. It's overwhelming. I'm more insecure than you. No, I'm more insecure. No, I am. No, I am. Come on. If the campaign has this much depth, I just can't wait to see it. Next, things get even more authentic as the host adopts Meghan's vocabulary.
When did your seed get planted in terms of knowing that this was a very important thing, that you need to embrace your uniqueness?
Yes.
And, create your own box?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh my, how sweet is that? You've been reading the TIG.
That's right.
It seems that there's no end to this self-branding. I like how all of this is presumably about women with actual self-esteem problems, but yet all we've heard are the milestones in Meghan's impressive career. Embrace your uniqueness, create your own box. Who talks like this? Really? How? Yes? How did you get the promotion? It was easy, I just embraced my uniqueness. You can do that too, you know. How did you do that, specifically? Oh, specifically? Well, I just created my own box. See, it's all about maximizing your opportunity in a way that feels organic to you. How did you... Well, what do you know? It's 4 o'clock. It's time for me to go. I hope it was empowering. See you tomorrow. Empty slogans like these that have about as much depth as the slogans in a perfume commercial are the prelude to Meghan's podcast, which is now no longer a part of our lives. Under the guise of speaking for all women, Meghan complained about the boxes she felt like she had been placed into, because of course she didn't do anything to earn the criticism. The interviewer's flattery sends Meghan into award mode, as if this is an acceptance speech.
So, I think for me it's been a learning curve, and obviously I've talked a little bit about like experiences I had as a child when I was 11, seeing a commercial that I thought felt sexist and doing something to change that, and having the support of my parents and also people around me.
A lot of acceptance speeches rely on alleged past insecurities, because the speakers know that simply saying certain cliches almost automatically results in pity and hence applause. Sometimes acceptance speeches are more calculating and insincere than political speeches, and that's saying a lot. Next, she makes an unintentionally revealing statement.
To say, what can I do about this so I can find a place where I fit in, so I can find or shape the world around me so that even if I am not exactly able to check one specific box, that I can make my own box, right?
Absolutely.
This is exactly how Meghan acted in the royal family. When she didn't fit in, very likely because she didn't try to in the first place, her complaints point to that, she found a way to shape the world around her by leaving the family. This way of phrasing it speaks to personality, that she sees herself as the center, and if the world around her doesn't please her, she creates a box that does. So this is what the seemingly positive phrase "create a box" actually meant: self-centeredness. Also, shape the world around me fits right in with the people today who won't conform to biological and scientific realities and expect people to applaud them for it. That's the underlying ideology in Dove's advertising as well. That's why it's so important to get to the bottom of what platitudes and cliches actually mean.
And that's also led you to become a women's advocate for the UN for political participation and leadership.
Yes.
Congratulations. That is a huge thing.
I know.
Was that something that you'd always kind of dreamt of, or?
From other interviews, we know that Meghan has a hard time even describing what the work is about, specifically. She always ends up mentioning the same trip to meet people, and a trip to meet people can hardly be called work.
What does the work entail? What do you do?
Yeah, so last February, actually, I went to Rwanda, which was incredible because Rwanda has the highest percentage of female political participants of any other country in the world, so 64%.
Let's find out if she has more she would like to share with us in this interview, aside from her work being astounding and amazing, of course.
I mean, in my wildest dreams, I never thought that would actually come to fruition. And when UN Women reached out to me last year from an article that I had written on the TIG, actually, which is my website for people who are like, what's the TIG?
At this point, I'm surprised we didn't also get the URL address. Self-promotion, especially when it's delivered in this deliberately casual way, is the best.
When they had reached out,
I like the plug there, smart businesswoman.
Yeah, right, exactly. Thank you. When they reached out to me about it, I really was able to now maximize that opportunity. I asked them if I could go and intern at the UN headquarters, and they said, well, I don't think anyone's ever really asked us that.
Maximize that opportunity. I think I've heard this before.
Learning as much as I can so that I can maximize the opportunity we have here to really make an impact.
No. My mistake.
Talk about a game changer. It's been pretty spectacular this past year.
I especially appreciate the specific details about the work she did, and I like that she didn't say all of this just to highlight this game changer. At no point did she try to guide people's perception of her. Instead, it was all focused on the people she was helping. Wait.
So what is the one message that you really want young women and women in general to just, really focus on as they navigate through life?
I can't wait to hear the answer to this, because I just know it's going to be profound. I feel it in my core.
Yeah, I think there are a couple things, for me, and I remind myself and my friends of that as well, is that, we just need to be kinder to ourselves, truly. Can you imagine how much better off we would be to just say, can sometimes be so judgmental, but at the end of the day, you are enough exactly as you are, I think is really important to remind ourselves of.
That is a very important message. Thank you so much, Meghan Markle.
Oh my gosh,
so good to see you.
Because it's not like this is a message we hear all the time. It's totally original. When we add this to the slogans, embrace your uniqueness and create your own box, patterns starting to form, this is the kind of self-love that might sound good at first, but when we look deeper, it's a defense mechanism towards everything that goes against the self-love. Not all judgments are bad, and people aren't enough exactly as they are, at least not by definition. Some people are lazy, other people are unnecessarily stubborn, and other people are navel-gazing. The point is that everyone has something they need to work on. Making false assurances to people that they're perfect and unique just the way they are isn't love, it's indifference, and calculating indifference at that, since advertisers know that shallow slogans sell. There's a reason why we don't see many work on yourself adverts. It's very telling that someone like Meghan lives by these slogans, because these slogans summarize how she conducted herself in the UK. Everything was someone else's fault and she could do no wrong.
The narrative with Kate, which didn't happen, was really, really difficult.
Was there a situation where she might have cried or she could have cried?
No, the reverse happened. It was a really hard week of the wedding, and she was upset about something, but she did what I would do if I knew that I hurt someone, right? To just take accountability for it. I protected that from ever being out in the world, and it made me cry, and it really hurt my feelings.
You didn't make Kate cry, Kate made you cry. So,
in other words, Meghan is the end result of what slogans can do to a person. But I guess repetition is recognition, as she taught us in one of her many inspiring speeches, thereby revealing the strategy she uses. It's not about truth, it's about repeating. Eventually, repetitions make people think it's true, and then they'll buy the brand, product, or message.
There are always going to be naysayers. But at the end of the day, I used to have a quote up in my room many, many moons ago. I've already settled it for myself. So flattery and criticism go down the same drain, and I am quite free. And the moment that you are able to be liberated from all of these other opinions of what you know to be true, then I think it's very easy to just live with truth and live with authenticity, and that's how I choose to move through the world.
Because as we all know, authentic people always feel the need to say that they're authentic. Also, she isn't liberated from people's opinions of her. She and her now husband depend on people's opinions of them, making millions of dollars and damage control Netflix shows, books, interviews, podcasts. But I guess that's all part of the purpose-driven life.
Just focus on living a purpose-driven life.
Thus, the quote doesn't apply to her, especially considering the effect flattery has on her. Naysayers are what she reduces her critics to, once again emphasizing her deliberately one-sided view that she can't be wrong. If it looks like she's wrong, it's because people have misinterpreted her. This is the perfect way to never having to learn from your mistakes and never having to improve anything. It's also the safest way to keep repeating the same mistakes and actually create a worse life for yourself. But I don't want to spoil the mood. See you next time.